Today I'm sketching one of my favorite rock and roll legends who was not exactly the first person in their family to become legendary because of their axe. Welcome back to the Rockin Chalk channel. If you're a fellow artist or digital artist, I am sketching in Procreate today. You can find details about my brushes in the notes below. So I'm a New Englander, and one local historic figure that we used to learn about in our school days was Hannah Dustin. She lived in Haverhill, Massachusetts, and in March of 1697, she was captured by Abenaki Native Americans during a raid on her village. Over the course of 2 weeks, she endured a horrible trek through the northern wilderness in the cold New England conditions, dressed only in her nightclothes and carrying her newborn child, who the captives eventually murdered very brutally along this journey. While she was going through this, she could only imagine what the fate of her other children and husband were. Had they escaped? Were they captured? Were they even alive? She had no way of knowing, as her captors marched her and a small group of others from Haverhill, Massachusetts, to Boscawen, New Hampshire. After 2 weeks, Hannah Dustin took advantage of the dark sleeping conditions. Armed with a hatchet, she killed and scalped 10 of the Native Americans and made her way back to her home. Upon return, she was hailed as a hero, sort of, and very eventually. Some would say she was awarded land or other compensation for her heroic act, but it was 1697. Women owned nothing. No money, no land. So her husband, who had survived, was awarded with that. She did, however, get a couple of statues erected in her honor, which are becoming rather controversial because, let's face it, she killed a bunch of people, then scalped them. Oh, and by the way, 6 of those people were children. But again, her own child was killed in front of her, and as far as she knew at the time, so were all of her others. It's pretty grisly all around, and if you do want to learn more, I highly recommend the book Massacre on the Merrimack by J. Atkinson. From one axe legend to another, fast forward a couple hundred years, 12 generations later, straight down the family tree of Hannah Dustin, and we have another badass axe-wielding woman who comes onto the scene in the mid-1970s, not in New England, but Seattle. This Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductee is known for her mad skills on acoustic and electric guitar, though she typically sang backup vocals for her sibling. In 1986, even though she was sick with a cold, she laid down the lead vocals for a song that went to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, called These Dreams.
These dreams go on when I close my eyes.
Nancy Wilson of Heart helped co-write big classic rock hits with her sister Ann, such as Magic Man, Crazy on You, and Barracuda. They were killing it for years before I even heard of them in the mid-'80s, when they made a big comeback after a little career slump. But even with those big hits in their history, they had a spell when they just weren't able to put together songs that had the interest of the masses, so they looked outward to other writers. And there's this guy, Bernie Taupin. You may have heard of him. He wrote a few songs for Elton John. Okay, all the songs. He wrote everything. He's Elton John's lyricist. Bernie Taupin and Martin Page actually wrote These Dreams, and it was written with Stevie Nicks in mind. But Stevie passed on it. Then they offered it to Kim Carnes, who also passed on the song. When Hart took it, it didn't quite suit Ann's voice, so they had Nancy sing it, sick with a cold and all, and that was it, a #1 hit that put Hart right back into the white-hot spotlight. I remember seeing them on their Bad Animals tour in 1988, and I thought they were some hot new band. So they brought their music to a new generation with These Dreams, followed by Alone, which also went to #1 the following year. But Ann and Nancy, the Wilson sisters, and great times 12 granddaughters of Hannah Dustin, had been slaying the rock scene since 1975. Another excellent book I recommend is their memoir, Kicking and Dreaming, which really gives insight into their truly remarkable talent, their relationship, their musicality, their creativity. I've just always admired the Wilson sisters, and I'm continually impressed by their work and also the way they carry themselves. If you're a fellow artist, or maybe you just dig rock and roll stories, I hope you're enjoying this video, and if so, please like and subscribe. So this is my Rockin Chalk sketch of Nancy Wilson. You can see here, I really love the look of dry media like graphite or charcoal, but I also love to work digitally. These days I usually work in an app called Procreate on an iPad with an Apple Pencil. Procreate users are always asking other artists about brushes, so generally I'm using Vine charcoal and peppermint pencil most of the time on this sketch, and those ship standard with Procreate. There's not much trickery going on here. It's like 2 brushes and about 20 hours of tender loving care and a great playlist to listen to in the background. I guess my biggest fascination with drawing is really values, just light and shadow, and positive and negative space. About 10 years ago, I started to work in reverse, drawing the light instead of the shadow. It turned out to be more than just a practice exercise. I find myself working light on dark most of the time. The digital tools are forgiving though, because I can undo or use layer masks to adjust my values, but otherwise, it's a lot of old school mark making techniques. I hope you've enjoyed a little look at my process. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.